It's not all pink pony and roses and rainbows here. Some people can be really mean. I'm burning my eyeballs. I packed my entire lunch this morning and forgot it in the fridge. I literally cry almost every day. Good morning. It is Sunday. I have 7 days left of my internal medicine wards rotation, and then I am done with medicine wards forever. Aria's eating her breakfast. She's making a lot of crunchy noises. We have a full team today. We have 2 medical students, we have 2 interns, our senior and our attending, and we're going to be at work until probably 8 p.m. tonight. We admit 5 patients and we start admissions like kind of late in the day, so we have most of the morning to do our work on our follow-up patients. I don't think I'm discharging anyone today, which means I have 4 patients and I'll probably take on another 2 patients for new admissions. All right, I'll take you guys all along on my last week of internal medicine wards. I'm so excited. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there are these little paw prints here on my windshield, but my car is parked in our garage, and my husband also sees these little paw prints on his car. So we thought that maybe a cat got into our garage, but we looked all over and we haven't seen any signs of a cat in here, but there's these little tiny paw prints all over my windshield. I just hope that we didn't trap a cat in here because there's no food or water, obviously, and it's been very, very hot in Arizona. Hey everyone, it's Tuesday. No, it's not Tuesday. It's Monday. It's really hard to keep my days straight when I work 6 days a week because I work all weekend and it doesn't feel like it's any particular day of the week. Yesterday was our long call day, and I typically just cannot pick up any type of motivation to vlog after those long days. Long call days at the VA are very frustrating, mainly because we get there and we finish all of our work, usually quite early. So we have follow-up patients that we see during the morning, and I only had 4 patients. That meant that I was open for a few admissions if we were going to get them all, but typically the VA is pretty slow on the weekends. So what ends up happening is that we finish our work by 10:30 or 11 in the morning, and we sit there and wait. There are multiple call teams that will get their admissions first, and once they're capped out for admissions, then the long call team gets theirs. So we oftentimes will not get admissions until 4 in the afternoon, sometimes 5 in the afternoon. The latest we can get an admission is 5:30. We're required to be on campus at the hospital until 7 p.m. because we are the rapid response team. We're also the code blue team. So we have to be on campus until 7. Yesterday, we ended up basically sitting empty-handed for 5.5 hours. It's funny because one of the med students actually came prepared for this, and she brought board games. She brought Connect 4, Scrabble, and the team played like a couple rounds of Uno. So that's really nice because you get to sit and work on whatever projects you want to work on. Some people worked on their research papers. I worked on an ebook guide that I'm writing. I also ended up watching like a 90-minute video on YouTube. We ended up just sitting around doing that for so long. There were no rapid response calls, and I didn't get basically any nursing calls from any of my patients because I tucked them in very well. Kid you not, at 5:20 in the afternoon is when we got our first admission. I just don't know why the system is like that we sat around doing nothing, and we could have been given this admission like at 3 in the afternoon to maybe give us something to do during the day. But no, we just sat empty-handed for 5.5 hours, and we get this admission right towards the end of our shift, and we have to finish it quickly so that we can actually get out on time. What has been the trend is that we end up getting multiple admissions in very late in the day, and instead of leaving on time at 7 p.m., even though we've sat around for most of the day, we end up leaving late, like at 8 p.m. So it could be a little bit frustrating. It's funny because I feel like people will say, don't complain if you're just sitting around with not a lot of work to do. But I'm a type of person who can't really sit still. I like having tasks to complete. It makes me feel fulfilled. And it's not that satisfying to just sit and not have much to do. So of course, like I said, I have projects that I bring and I work on, but it just makes for such a long day. So today was post-call, and I got there at 7 a.m. We saw all of our follow-up patients, and we do not do admissions on post-call. So I got home around 12:30 in the afternoon, and I had some lunch, and then I ended up crashing out on the couch because I get so tired on these stretches of work. This past week has been a little wild at the VA. Actually, one of our medical students got really mistreated by one of the nurses, and they ended up crying, and I felt so bad for them. I just think there's no reason for anyone to ever be so mean to another person in a workplace, especially to trainees. They're already so self-conscious and feeling like they have so much to learn, and they're just trying to navigate their way through the hospital and working to take care of these patients. So I just feel like it's so uncalled for nurses to be so mean to medical students and residents, and I felt so bad for her. But apparently this person is going to be retiring soon. I just think that there's really no excuse. It's very unfortunate that that happened. For the most part, we work with really great nurses. I just think that there's no excuse to be mistreating other people. I came home to this built card. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about it. This is not a sponsored post. This is just one of those things that I do to help with traveling while I'm in residency and medical school. It's kind of a cool design. If you open it this way, how do you use that? That's pretty cool. The Built card is a very interesting credit card. So basically, it allows you to pay your rent. When I was signing my lease for the new city we're moving to, the lease actually showed us how much money we're going to be paying in rent in the next year, and it was $30,000. And when I saw the entire year of how much my rent will cost in a year, I was like mind blown. And it's so hard to see it as an annual fee rather than like a monthly fee. And I learned about the Built card, and the Built card basically allows you to pay your rent with a credit card. Typically, if you pay your rent with a credit card, the rental companies will charge you a credit card fee. Typically what they want is that you give them a written check or that you do a bank transfer. But the great thing about the Built card is they give you an account number so your rent can be withdrawn just like as if it's a bank transfer. That money that you spend on your rent accumulates into points that you can transfer into travel partners like Alaska Airlines or United Airlines, and then you can end up using those points to pay for future travel. So obviously me living in Ohio and my family living in Arizona, I wanted more options to be able to fly to Arizona and use travel points. And I just thought this was such a great idea. It almost feels like I'm hacking the system. Like I have to pay rent. I'm going to pay $30,000 in the next year on rent. Why not let that $30,000 kind of return to me so that I can use it later for future travel? I've done it in the past with other credit cards. Like I've turned credit cards all through med school. One of my favorites right now is the Capital One Venture X card, but I've also turned the Chase Sapphire card, which is also another really great travel credit card. And I think actually the Chase Sapphire card just reintroduced their 100,000 point offer, bonus offer if you sign up, which typically they don't have. Actually, I don't think they had that large of a bonus since prior to COVID. And throughout med school, I used points from credit cards to travel, and I went and did multiple international trips just by points from my credit card. And we just put everything on our credit card and just make sure that we pay the balance at the end of the month. It's one of those things where you have to make sure you have enough funds to pay off your credit card. You should never go into credit card debt just to use points. I think the plan for tonight will be just to get on my exercise bike. I might try to go over to my sister's house and see her. And then we just have 5 more days of internal medicine wards for the rest of my life. Gonna watch some SNL. How packing's going? All right, I am now done with my workout. I spent like 47 minutes on that bike. I like a really fast weekday meal because obviously like in residency, we're really busy and we mostly eat vegetarian, mostly vegan actually in our house. So I'll just cook up some onion, some carrots. Ah, that's so cold on my hands. Woo. All right, gonna fry this up. With ginger, garlic. Hey everyone, it is Tuesday, May 20th. I am home for my mid-call shift. Mid-call means we admit from noon till 3 p.m. I left literally at 3 p.m. on the dot. We only got one admission, but my co-intern was off today. Usually when an intern is off, the senior will take over and cover all of those patients. Usually. Really great, amazing seniors do that, but some don't. Some make the other intern who has never followed these patients, don't know anything about them. An Amazon delivery guy just walked up to my house and scared the crap out of me. Oh my gosh. I thought someone was trying to walk into my garage because I still have my garage door open. Oh my gosh, he just scared the crap out of me. Anyways, what I was saying is usually when another intern is off, the senior will cover all of their patients, which is very nice because obviously the senior knows the entire list. They've followed all of the patients all throughout their hospital course. An intern is usually off 1 day a week. It only makes sense that the senior covers for the intern that is off. But not all seniors do that. Some seniors decide that they actually want the intern who is working to cover all their own patients and all of the patients of the intern that is off. So I ended up carrying more than half the patients on our list today, which typically doesn't happen. I've actually only ever experienced this with one person who happens to be my senior this week, but I've not experienced this at all with any other seniors I've worked with this entire year. They've always really stepped up to the plate and helped support the team by covering for the intern that is off, which only makes sense. I think that's better for continuity of care for patients because me as an intern who's coming in to just watch this other person's patients for 1 day while they're off, I don't know much about them, and I ended up discharging a patient who had an entire hospital course with that intern. So, it just makes everything a little more messy, and I do feel like a really great supportive senior would cover for the intern that is off. That's like my 2 cents of what a great senior does. Part of this video this week is going to be kind of confessions of intern year, and one of the things that people don't talk to you about is how important team dynamics are in your intern year and in your residency in general. Your team alone can really make or break how a rotation feels. If you feel supported, if you feel very stressed, or if you feel like dreading going into work, sometimes your team dynamic is what makes or breaks how that feels for you. And I tell you this because one of my very favorite all-time rotations in intern year, to my surprise, was my general surgery rotation where I was working my butt off and working like 80-hour weeks, the most amount of hours than any other rotation I've had this past year. I had such a supportive senior, and it just made my experience so that much better. And I think having a supportive senior is one of the most important things of rotations in intern year. That if you're a senior in residency or you're going to become a senior, just know how big of an impact you make on your team dynamic and think about how much you can support your interns. They're drowning, they're sad. I literally cry almost every day on my drive to work, and having a great supportive senior just makes all of the difference. Later tonight, I have a mandatory meeting that I have to go to for my residency. Before we do that, I want to make some chips and salsa, binge on that, get on the exercise bike for hopefully like 45 minutes, and then take a shower and then go to that meeting. It's a little bit after 3:30 and the meeting's around 6 p.m. tonight, so I'm hoping to do all of that before I go. I packed my entire lunch this morning and forgot it in the fridge. Here I am getting a patient call. Oh no, it's my husband. That's like so much better. Hi, it's Medicine Team B. One time I made salsa right before I went to an eye appointment, and they wanted me to try on my contact lenses, but I had capsaicin oil all over my fingers from the peppers, and every time I tried to put the contact lenses in, it would just burn my eyes. Like, think of spraying yourself with pepper spray in your eyeballs. And the obstetrician was like, you have to put these contacts in. I have to see you try them on before you leave. And I was like, woman, I cannot touch my eyes right now. It's like burning. I'm burning my eyeballs. And I was like, I'm a freaking adult. Like, I don't have to listen to you. And I told her, I'm not gonna try again. My eyes are burning. I cannot use my hands right now. Like, I'll have to come back a different day. So some people can be so like pushy, and guess what? You can say no to things. Anyway, so now I always use a paper towel to hold on to the pepper while I'm cutting it, so I don't make that mistake again and get peppers all over my fingers. Obviously you can use gloves too, but I don't have any gloves here. I just got a a call from the general surgery service who I consulted on a patient, and basically I have a ton of orders I need to put in and make sure it's all settled for this patient. It's funny that the last week of my internal medicine rotation happens to be my busiest week. I feel like the joke's on me. I'm still hoping to get some exercise in before I go to this meeting tonight and have some chips while I put in these orders. Due to the fact that I got a call and I had to do a bunch of orders, it really cut into my workout time before I go to this meeting this afternoon. Whew. I ended up just doing 15 minutes on the exercise bike instead of 45 minutes, which is fine. Sometimes you just have to adapt to the day and make sure that you can get some movement in, even if it's just 15 minutes. I'm gonna get a quick shower in and get ready to go to this meeting. Heading to my meeting. Hey everyone, it is now almost 9 p.m. and that mandatory meeting ended up being almost 3 hours long. I think it's actually a mandatory meeting that is similar across all residencies, where the program coordinator, program directors, and all the residents come together to discuss the strengths and areas needed for improvement for the residency program that you're in. So all of the TYA residents were all in the same conference room with leadership, and we were each assigned a rotation from this past year to discuss strengths and then areas needed for improvement. And then we all kind of just included our input. Obviously having it was probably like 10 different rotations that we were discussing. It just took so long and people had a lot to unload about things that they, thought needed to be improved. But let me just say, I did not eat dinner because I was told that they would be catering, and I'm vegetarian. I don't eat meat, or at least I don't eat land animals. I do sometimes eat fish. They did not have any vegetarian options, which is so crazy to me in 2025 to not have vegetarian options. Actually, a couple of us are vegetarian, so we were not able to eat dinner. And it's now almost 9 p.m. and I usually try not to eat so close to bedtime. So I didn't even get to eat dinner while we sat there for 3 hours discussing the residency program. That's really unfortunate. I felt like it was mostly a productive meeting. These meetings can feel very dreadful to me because I do feel like people end up just really complaining a lot and not finding value in most of the experiences that we have in residency, and instead just kind of complain about the amount of work that we do. I didn't totally feel like that was the case during this meeting though, and I think we did a really great job discussing the strengths and areas of improvement, and I think it was a pretty productive meeting. And I think for my particular program, we have extremely responsive and great leadership that makes all the difference, honestly, when you're in training. Anyways, I'm finally home. I still have to work tomorrow, but we're on short call, so that's really nice. A couple of us girls in the residency program actually was very tempted to go out to grab some drinks, but it's almost 9 p.m. and most of us have to work tomorrow, so we were like, oh, let's just do another night. Sometimes you just have to make those sacrifices in residency. Good morning. It's Wednesday. I have 4 days left of this rotation. On Wednesdays, we wear pink. It is noon on a short call day and I am headed home, which is insane. I just have to thank my co-intern who came in today, and the board of patient assignments was a little bit imbalanced. I was carrying a lot of patients and she actually diarised her list, meaning that she discharged all of her patients, which is insane. That's amazing. We are open for 5 admissions tomorrow. Basically, people just need to be ready to take on a lot of patients tomorrow. So she decided that she was going to take the 2 new admissions today, and we can only get 2 admissions. So I didn't have to stay to do any extra work. I feel a little bit bad because she's gonna have to stay, probably a couple more hours to finish up her notes on these patients, but it's people like this who really make the work day and work week manageable. So I cannot thank her enough. It's one of those things I had mentioned earlier this week. Your team really makes or breaks how your rotation goes, and people like her just make the rotation that much more manageable. So I just appreciate her so much for doing that. I'm gonna head home and eat some lunch. Chips and salsa. Much better the next day. I got a bunch of these mini bundt cakes to thank my co-resident for helping me out so much today. She ended up taking the last 2 admissions, and then she checked on one of my patients for me since I'm at home. So I'm gonna bring her one of these tomorrow to thank her. I ordered it for delivery and I asked my siblings if they wanted any, and they did, so I ended up ordering 6 bundt cakes. It's Thursday, it's my last long call shift. My entire team is at didactics right now, meaning that they have a lecture. I don't go to this because I'm not part of their residency program. I'm in my own residency program and I'm rotating within their team. I don't go to those didactics. It's off of this campus. It's not even at this hospital. So I'll be here helping out the attending if they need help. This morning, I had to call a consult on a patient. It was the first time that I had a very terrible interaction with another physician. I had to put a consult in for ENT, ear, nose, and throat surgeon, for one of my patients. So usually we call the consult and let the consultants know what we're consulting about. Once we run it by the consultants, sometimes we don't even need to put in a consult order because they'll just give us some information, tell us what to do, and then it doesn't even have to be a formal consult. They won't even come up and see the patient. Sometimes they do need a formal consult where we actually have to put in an order and they'll come up, see the patient. Often I will call the consultants first before I put in the orders. Well, when I called this physician, I said, hey, I have a consult for hemoptysis. Literally could not even finish my sentence when they said, do you have an order in? And I was like, yeah, I'm working on that. I just wanted to give you some information about the history of the patient. The physician responded, put in a consult, then we can talk, and then hung up on me, which I think is so rude. I wasn't even able to explain anything about the patient's history. And for the most part, I've never had this type of interaction with another physician. Most consultants are very kind and very willing to work with us, but it was just so mean and so rude. I just feel like if you're a consultant and people need to call you to ask you questions about your specialty, like, just have some common courtesy. People should not be afraid to call you because of your reputation of being awful and unkind. Anyways, I think this is the type of person where you just don't call them and you just put in an order and hopefully they'll see the patient. Just so unfortunate that that type of personality persists in medicine. It's just so unnecessary and uncalled for. And that wasn't the only person today that when I called for a consult, they cut me off in the middle of my sentence without even letting me finish talking about the history of a patient. Sometimes it feels really demoralizing when I have these interactions with consultants. Be nice to your medicine team, people. We have questions. I just went on a 30-minute walk around the hospital because I have nothing to do, basically. We did respond to one rapid that turned into a STEMI call, so we sent that patient to the emergency room to get worked up very quickly so that they can get a cardiac catheterization. I did end up getting myself some bundt cakes, so I'm enjoying that right now. 3:30 in the afternoon. My team comes back around 5 in the afternoon, and I think we're supposed to get 2 or 3 admissions around that time. I'm sure me sitting here all day empty-handed, but we'll end up being here late because we'll get late admissions. So good. You get through long call shifts by bringing snacks. I just finished my very last long call shift ever of intern year. It's 102 degrees out right now, so it's very, very hot. But I am so excited to be done. I have 2 more shifts left. Tomorrow is my post-call shift. We don't take any admissions. Saturday is my last shift ever of internal medicine wards for the rest of my life. I'm just gonna let that all sit. I'm so excited. Today's the day. Today is my last day of doing internal medicine inpatient wards. I'm walking into my last shift of hospital medicine. I am training to be a radiologist, so on July 1st, I start my radiology advanced training, and today marks the day that I finish hospital wards. I will no longer be rounding on patients in the hospital. For the most part, I feel an immense sense of relief. This is not the type of medicine that I want to practice. I applied to residency to train in radiology. We are required to do an intern year that is not in radiology to establish a strong foundation in clinical medicine. And let me just say, it's been a really tough and hard year. Intern year is not for the faint of heart. We are challenged mentally, emotionally, and honestly physically with all the hours that we work throughout the week. I am officially done with hospital medicine forever. That's so insane. For those of you who don't really understand what the residency process is for people like me who are in a specialty like radiology, other specialties like anesthesia, ophthalmology, dermatology also kind of go this similar route where your intern year gives you a clinical foundation of clinical medicine, and you basically rotate through all of these different specialties that are not your advanced specialty that you eventually will be training into. This past year, I've done a ton of inpatient hospital wards and internal medicine, as well as general surgery, emergency medicine, and other electives. And you do that for an entire intern year before you actually start your advanced training, which for me starts in July. Part of this year is really embracing all the learning and clinical foundations of being a physician, but also towards the end, like, we get so tired and a little burnt out, honestly, because hospital medicine wards is 6 days on, 1 day off a week, and you're basically responsible for being on call for 12 hours each day, answering phone calls from nurses and putting in orders. Doing that weeks on end can really weigh on us, or it can really weigh on me. I'm just so glad to never have to do hospital wards again. It's not just the many hours of workload, it's also like the mental load of going home and thinking about these patients for so long that it keeps me up at night, just making sure that I did the right thing for the patient. I get really worried sometimes for my patients, and then it ends up affecting my sleep. This month has been such an emotionally taxing, physically taxing month, and now I start something called Quality Improvement Elective, where I learn about how the hospital system works, kind of more of the backside of things. It's a lot more relaxed. It's only Monday through Friday. I'll have the holiday off on Monday, and I won't have to do these 12-hour shifts 6 days a week on hospital medicine wards ever again in my training. And that just makes me so happy. I can't believe I survived this intern year. But honestly, I do love it here. It gives me so much joy to help patients, and I'm just glad to be done. Glad to check this part off of my training.